So welcome to session 3 of today. This is room 2, this is ethics of data accumulation and large language models. Our first speaker is Jonas Fergalo Melo, I hope I pronounced your name right, from the University of Porto, Portugal. And his talk is entitled Intercultural Information Ethics Applied to Data Colonialism Concepts. So if you'd like to go ahead, feel free.
Okay. Let me put my timing. Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you to attend this sections. My name is Jonas Melo. I'm from University of Porto in Portugal, and I'm gonna present this paper. The title is Intercultural Information Ethics Applied to the Data Colonialism Concept. Oh, it's not, yeah. So my agenda, it's introductions, digital platforms as the means of data colonialism, digital colonialism from the intercultural information ethics perspective, concluding remarks and my references. Exponential changes happening in society from the exploitation of data. This is a common statement, whether in the uncritical literature that maps business trends, or in more critical arguments that sees big data processing as the means of a new stage of colonialism. The richest companies in the world in 2022 are built on data capital. Many of these companies use the data created by people using technology tools. Sadovsky agrees that data and the accumulations of data is a core of a component of a political economy in the 21st century, establishing a parallel between data and capital in contemporary capitalism. So considering that datification within capitalism, it's a process of abstraction and extraction data in various spaces to generate profit. That is a geography and a politics of datifications, and with this establish connections with historical colonialism characterized by inequality in economy and cultures and territorial relations between states and empires based on domination and subordination. This process of establishing a data value claims is called digital colonialism or data colonialism. Datifications carries ethical implications, especially from increasing surveillance and advances in artificial intelligence technology, for example. And therefore, the debates on the ethical issues surrounding these concepts must be carried out from an intercultural perspective, especially since these discussions are often dominated by a South global, in the sense based on assumptions that purely metacultural information ethics remains abstract if it is not interculturally reflected. So analyzing colonialism exclusively from a Western's perspective leads to an imbalance, and the risk that studies or the subjects will help to reproduce this speech with ethical damage. We understand that it's essential to consider that the diverse nature of societies impose on us to analyze the ethics of information centered on the other, sensitive with the context, without being paternalistic and colonizing. So it is the intercultural information ethics. The fundamental core of the field reflects how the values presumably belong to the field of information ethics should be understood in light of the spread of information technology to all cultures in the world. So these papers aim to examine the relations between the concept of data colonialism from the perspective of intercultural information ethics. It's exploratory descriptive research supported by biographical research. Despite an eventual lack of theoretical clarity between data colonialism and digital colonialism, both are the results of a new social order based on continuous tracking and offering unprecedented new opportunities for social discriminations and behavior influence. This assertion is best understood through the history of colonialism, established by creating and maintaining unequal economy, cultures, and territorial relations between states and empires. In this line of thought, data extractions enacts a new form of colonialism, materializing the explorations of human being through data. Just as a historical colonialism appropriated territories and research and governed subjects for profit. This colonialism provides the preconditions for a new stage of capitalism, in which the appropriations of human life through data will be central, in the same way that historical colonialism provides the preconditions for the emergence of industrial capitalism. So the platform produces the social for capital, concentrates information about the social, and becomes a space where data is ready to be appropriated and explored to add value. This understanding based on the assumptions that the data is the natural research freely and available for explorations. From this perspective, extractive activities become naturalized, and the flow of everyday life being to reconfigured and represented in a way that allows its capture as data. This phenomenon was called life mining or data mining. The apparent naturalizers of data appropriations consider the cliche that the data is the new oil, lost by the humanity, so corporations can appropriate it for some proposal. This based on constructions that data as a raw material with natural value through this discourse. The data exploration or its appropriation is be obfuscated. In this context, datification is understood as a colonial process, not just in a metaphorical sense of saying that data is new oil, but literally as a new model of colonialism that appropriates humans' life so that can be continuously extracted and used from the benefits or interest of some. Instead of territories and natural research and slave labor, data colonialism appropriates social research. The colonial relations between colonizer and colonized is a new age of data takes place through these terms of service and privacy policy of digital platforms. These documents establish the legal perceptions of which platforms users will be subject if they agree to use the digital service. These documents are extensive and dense, making them pro forma without real conditions, reading conditions. These are documents with high information content on which we can reconstruct the history of a particular person, event, situation, and context. However, this did not create a way to generate economic value. It's not a question of accumulation, processing, using, reusing personal data, but of using this information without the proper authorizations of the holders, of the owners of the data for commercial proposal or monetary invoicing. The extractive actions of data is just like the actions of extermination of the native peoples in the period of historical colonization. there is no return, but we can think in a decolonial way. Information ethics is concerned with debating the creation, organization, disseminations, and use of information with the scope of ethical standards and moral codes. However, the diverse and the plural nature of societies impose the needs to present the concept of intercultural information ethics. And intercultural ethics that is centered in the context sensitive and functional without being paternalistic, without being colonizing. The concept looks at how its issues are understood from different cultures, traditions, especially under the impact of information and communication technology in different cultures. China, for example, is a current example of what is being called digital neo-colonialism, given its state efforts to become a cyber superpower. However, beyond its boards, China's boards, the Chinese government has been working closely with Chinese technologies company to export products and service to Africa to expand China's influence and promote its model of cyberspace governance, materializing what is called digital colonialism. Chinese technology has become an attractive commodity due to the difficult many countries have to develop their own technologies. This is why many African countries have become dependent of China for their technology and service. The issues that deserves attention in this scenario is that the China model of mass censorship through its automated surveillance systems leads to reductions of digital freedom across the continent. In this scenario, enjoying a free and democratic political discourse in which the legislation and regulations of telecommunications and the internet must be transparent, open to reforms, comes from the colonial discourse. These issues are almost absent for the public debates, which has devoted exponential efforts to problems with algorithm discrimination, fake news, and needs for regulations to moderate the power of big techs. For concluding remarks, the initial premise of this analysis assumes that information ethics can only be achieved in the context, in the complex interconnections between ethics, culture, information, technology, and different social class within territorial borders are not ignored. It's said that technology are prized for their simplicity, clarity, and ability to promote the unity between people. However, they also hide the unfavorable consequence of data mining, such as information asymmetry, unpaid work, social control, constant surveillance, invasion of privacy, relations of inequality, discrimination, extractions, exploitation. These narratives highlight the rise of data colonialism and argue for the increasing influence of technologies in the social environment. They also have the power to dismantle democracies and establish the control force through the surveillance. One more, yeah. This relationship must be analyzed from the perspective of local culture on privacy, informed consent, and information sharing, with differ absolute in Africa and Eastern countries, if they are compared, for example. And in this sense, the lessons of intercultural information ethics can be applied. And therefore, the colonialism of data and intercultural ethics of information are related to the extent that both address information justice in diverse cultural contexts. Intercultural ethics is concerned with understanding and respecting different cultures' perspectives concerning information, while data colonialism refers to the practices of the companies and governments collecting, controlling, and exploiting personal data without consent, reproducing colonial power relations. In this sense, an intercultural ethical approach to information can help analyze data colonialism efforts, promoting justice and equality in different cultural contexts. So creating communities of resistance can weaken the power of digital neocolonialism, and if this is possible for the analyzed culture. Here my reference, and here my email, and you can find me on LinkedIn also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we can open it up to questions from the audience. That was very interesting. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Or, okay. Zilo, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the talk. I find this to be a very, very timely set of topics. So I just want to get your crystal view of. So I hear you mention that it's necessary that we think about culture, that we think about. I'd like to say pluralism. There's like culture is one thing that kind of tracks like our polymorphism really in how we want to handle issues. And there might be idiosyncratic content in there too, traditional content that's within the country, but different from other citizens or inhabitants of the same country. So do you think in that context, in what sense do you think there is universal normativity? In what sense do you think there is some kind of a universal set of rights, maybe that's asking for too much, that everybody can agree on, that facilitates like our digital living? Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on that.
I don't know if I understand the question. Can you rephrase,
yes,
please?
Yes. So in simple terms, so polymorphism is a fact, and it also probably is a good thing that we think differently. And it just will not work if we insist on some simple-minded set of principles for everyone, right? So given that like our conditions are different, our strategies are already different, in what sense like can we agree on the most important things? Like can we agree on what is good for social living on the fundamental level? Can we agree on what is kind, what is unkind, those kinds of things? What do you think?
Yeah, well, the information, the Intercultural Information Acts says that we can have the same idea for different cultures. We can have one way to follow some rules, but anyway, this have to be analyzed from the cultural perspective. Even if I agree being Brazilians with some statements, but now I'm living in Portugal, but my point of view as a Brazilian is different from a Portuguese people, or even if our idea is the same, doesn't matter for this concept, for the intercultural information ethics, we have to look for these different realities, for these different cultures, perspectives.
Thank you. Any more questions at all? And a quick one. What with this, thinking about intercultural ethics and AI, what does this mean for developers? How can developers and individuals kind of working in this field better, better consider different ethical viewpoints and be less colonialist in their discussions? I think, we look at some of the big corporations and how they're going about, gathering data and using data as this big commodity. Are there, and here I'm talking as an educator, what can we do potentially to help maybe future developers be more nuanced in their thinking, and hopefully maybe even push back against some of these really harmful practices that you highlighted in your presentation?
Yeah, I think yes, actually, this is a part of my PhD research, and my PhD research is looking for informed consent for websites that give the person, the users, the clarity what the companies are collecting from me. So we are looking for a model. We are saying unequivocal informed consent. And I think the developers can think in this way. We have a new project, it's very nice, called Solid project. It's created by Tim Berners-Lee, and this Solid, it's an infrastructure, it's ecosystem, very big. It's concerned. The goal is to give the web for the people. So they are concerned about this data. They are concerned how to develop, how to code a website or applications or so on, in a way more ethical, responsible.
Unmuted. Is there a website for this project that you can share with
Yes,
us?
yeah,
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
yeah.